This is Jay Worth, the Encourager. Never stop believing. I'm telling you, you have to believe it. It's inside of you. It's what you feel. It's what you need. It's what you do. If you can believe it, you can achieve it. Just keep going. Press your way through. Can you believe in what you can't see? There's so much more that's going on inside of you. And the seed that's inside of you, you have to water it. Don't you believe it? If you can press, if you can believe, I assure you, you'll never stop believing. Hey, I'm your host, Juanita Ward, and you're watching Never Stop Believing. Today's show is sponsored by earthblend.global. You can use the link in the description box to place your order. I am super excited that you are here with us today for another edition of Never Stop Believing. I have the lovely Miss Paula Rogers in the building. I am so excited. Miss Paula, how are you?
I am wonderful.
That's awesome.
And super excited to be here.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. You have been such an inspiration and light into this world. You've been an inspiration into this community. I am so grateful for all that God is doing in your life and through your life. You are the example of never stop believing. You are truly a servant heart and a servant leader. And so I'm so grateful for what God is doing in your life. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
As always, we always open up with something inspirational. And today, Miss Rogers, I want to talk about this. There's something that I found in the Bible. It's a scripture that I found in the Bible that says this in Psalms 37:23. It says, "The steps of a good man are directed and established by the Lord when he delights in his way, and he blesses himself with every step. Though he falls, he shall not be utterly cast down, for the Lord grasps his hand in support and upholds him." Mm-hmm. For the Lord grasps his hand. Yes, even though he falls, guess what? His steps have already been ordered. Mm-hmm. Even though he falls 20,000 times, guess what? His steps have already been ordered. Yes. Even in the beginning of our life, we were already predestined before anybody ever knew who we were. Yes. So guess what? Our steps have already been ordered. Yes. That's the reason why it's important to never stop believing. Yes. And I'm so grateful that you are here because you are the example of never stop believing. Amen. Let's take us on a journey of your life and kind of, when there was a time that you never stopped believing.
Ooh, when I was in the dungeon.
Wow.
I come from a little country town called Van Cleve. I'm the oldest of 11, and tragedy hit my family. I watched my father be killed at the hands of my mother when I was a little girl. I got stuck in that place of trauma, ended up serving time in prison. Didn't serve time in prison because I watched that trauma. Sure. I served time in prison because I committed a crime of shoplifting to take care of 10 younger siblings. And I was in a dark place. Yes. And in that dark place, headed to prison, not knowing, the only thing I knew about prison is what I had seen on television. Right. And so that was when I had to remember what my grandmother, what my loving, sweet, dear mother taught me, and that was the love of Jesus Christ. Come on now. And so that is when I had to take what was taught to me in a place that I knew nothing about, didn't know what I would be up against, and I never stopped believing. And the Lord manifested who he was in that place of never stopping to believe.
So you're saying in your dark place,
oh yes,
while yet sitting in the jail cell,
yes,
you continuously believe,
yes,
that God could get you out, that God was going to bring you out,
yes,
and you realize something inside of you. Talk about what clicked in that moment.
Well, the one thing about being in that place in the jail cell, I'm a church girl. And I knew about Paul. I had heard about Silas. And so I had some witnesses that I had read about. My grandmother had taught Sunday school about. That I had some witnesses in the scripture that was sitting in the same place I was.
Come on now.
And I stayed in those places of, Joseph.
Come on now.
Who ended up in prison. So I had these witnesses that I would read even more about them while I was sitting in the cell. And what brought them through. And I, having had those Sunday school classes, I took those Sunday school classes and lessons inside that prison, and the Lord manifested himself just like he did for Joseph, for Paul, and for Silas. He did it for Pauline sitting in that cell.
Yes. And here's the thing, no matter what place you're in today, there are witnesses As Ms. Rogers said earlier, there are witnesses, there are examples, there are illustrations that will tell you no matter where you are, no matter what dark place you're in, God is still right there with you. No matter what's going on in your life today, God is still right there with you.
Yes.
You don't have to be in that dark place by yourself. God is still right there with you. And Ms. Rogers, you said it. You have had witnesses.
Yes.
But you had to do something.
I had to do
You had to
something.
search it
Yes.
for yourself.
Yes.
Now, I want to go back to when you said you had to be the adult. You had to grow up fast because you lost your father at an early age.
Right.
And you had to grow up fast to be a support for your siblings. Now, you did what you thought what was best to do at the time. And obviously, it cost you some time.
Cost me some time.
However, God's grace and mercy was still there.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about being that light for your family and then getting out of the situation that you were in.
My grandmother always instilled in me being the oldest, that it was my duty and responsibility to help with the younger siblings. I took that literal. And when my mother became a workaholic, she didn't serve time in jail. She was put there overnight for protective custody because it was a domestic situation.
Right.
And she got out on self-defense. And so I was trying to figure out what was my place. I didn't have a job. What was my place? How could I help take care of siblings? Didn't have a job, but I was a church girl. I knew where to get food.
Right.
So I would dress up my siblings, and I would look in the local free newspapers, penny pinchers, thrifty nickels for every funeral that I could attend that was in walking distance. And I would dress them up, not to go grieve with the bereaved family, but to go to the repast to get food. And decades ago, you could easily leave with a whole pan of meat, casseroles, that thing. And so that was my contribution to give back. And being a church girl, I would take that food back home, although I was being deceptive, put it on the table, make a spread, and pray over it, and thank God for that food, because I didn't actually steal it. It was given to me, but I got it through deception.
Right.
And so from that to shoplifting, we had to sleep in our clothes. Our clothes was our sleeping clothes, and I wanted real pajamas, real gowns for me and my siblings. So I started shoplifting, and then I benefited too, you know, wanting to dress and look good.
Right.
And so that's what landed me in prison. But that was my contribution, how I grew up as a child, trying to give back to my family to help support them.
And you learned through that moment that, listen, I never lost my foundation. You never lost who you were. Your foundation was still there.
Yes.
And you were able at that age to know what you were doing wasn't right, but you did it because you needed to help your family, or else you guys wouldn't have eaten.
Right.
But you paid your time for it.
Right.
And here's what I want to tell the people today. Sometimes we can be put in a hard place, in a hard situation, not knowing what someone is going through. Sometimes we can be put in a real damper crisis, not knowing what someone is going through. That's the reason why it's important to pray for people that are in jail. It's important to keep them covered and wrapped up, because some of them just had a hard break. Not everybody is in there because they did something that they did maliciously.
Right.
You learned from it.
Oh, yes.
And then you got delivered from it. And your siblings see that strong warrior lives on today.
Yes.
So now, not only did you turn your life around, not only did you say, God, forgive me for doing what I was doing, I thank you for not letting me go astray, but now you're saying, I'm going to help every single person that was sitting in that cell.
Yes.
I'm going to go back and be the light.
Yes.
Because I learned never to stop believing in that moment. I found out something about myself. I went back to the solid foundation of who I was. God was at the root of everything. And you said it, because I'm a church girl. That means you always knew who he was. And so what you do now, you go back and you give a helping hand to women now. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, sitting in that cell, Pastor Ward, you know, God, I took who I was, what I knew about Christ. When I say I was a church girl, meaning I didn't have a vote in whether I went to church or not.
Yes.
Like the kids get a vote now. And so I never stopped believing in that God, that Christ that was taught in Sunday school, in the pulpit. I learned about tithes. I learned about offerings. All of this. So I took that into the prison. And when I got there and I saw these people in prison, I was like in a culture shock. Where are your families? It was like an underground world. It is a different world.
Wow.
And there were people that had been paroled and had been there, some even over a year, that could not leave because they did not have an address. And I thought, don't have an address, you got to stay here. How are you paroled and still here? And it took me a while to learn that. And so I used to, children have big ideas.
Right.
We're full of ideas.
That's right.
Dreams and vision.
That's right.
When children tell you, I want to be a lawyer, doctor, professional player, they are serious when they say that.
That's right.
Then here come the dream killers to kill all of these dreams. And so I would hot air, spit out what I wanted to do and do something about, the housing situation. I would say, I'm going to fix this when I leave here.
Okay.
I'm going to get a house when I leave here. And I'm going to, I'm just talking it in hot air, right? I get out of prison. There was a lady that actually needed somewhere to stay. I didn't have a house, but I had an extra room. And I would let her live in that extra room, that extra bedroom that I had, when I got out. And so it started in that seed. In 1989, this lady needed somewhere to sleep, and I gave her somewhere to sleep.
Wow.
And it went from that to 30-something years later with a 27-acre and 3 homes. And so I'm just thankful to God that I never stopped believing that got me to the place of where I am now.
Wow.
Now, it's not developed. We're not the whatever in the state, but there are people that are sleeping there that are coming out of prison.
Wow.
And for that, I am thankful.
Wow.
And I can't stop believing now.
Come on now. Come on now.
Won't stop believing now.
Come on.
No.
Woo. So you're getting me fired up because what you're talking about is faith.
Yes.
You spoke faith.
Yes.
You spoke faith then because you thought it. It popped into your spirit. You spoke it out in faith. You believed that it was before it even became.
Yes.
And you said to yourself, this, even while I'm sitting in this cell, God has given me another chance and another opportunity. And here's what I'm going to speak out in faith. I'm going to believe in faith that one day I will have what I say.
Yes.
So we cannot have if we don't say.
Yes.
We cannot have if we don't speak. We can't have if we don't even think it. We have to think this thing in order to believe this thing, in order to receive this thing. We got to manifest it by the words that we speak. We have faith in our words.
Yes.
It only takes a little seed.
Only a little.
A little seed. And you spoke these words out. Tell me, how were you really tapping into more of your faith? I'm talking about the activation process.
I tapped into more of my faith through people like you. God raised up people, voices that had a sound or had a word that I wanted to hinge on those. Because to feed, I couldn't, I could feed myself and eat good. But there are also some good cooks around that you can sit at the table and eat better. There's some recipes that you know not of until you taste them. And so I heard voices like the Juanita Wards, like the Wendy Hatchers that mentored me when I was in prison, that I fed off of, I feasted off of. Because you have the negative voices that come.
Yes.
You have the enemy that comes and say, you can't do this.
That's right.
You don't know nothing about this. And then you have that one come and say, go pick up that first fish. You have those voices. And so I was feeding off the voices that fed me. So I ate off of what fed me.
See, what you're talking about is you cannot sit at the table with everybody because every word is not seasoned with salt.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
See, when we sit and we listen to people, sometimes we have to actually listen to what they're saying because those seeds do not water something that's on the inside of us. If that seed is not being planted in the right soil, how can it grow? How can that seed grow?
Right.
And you allowed grace, you allowed mercy to grow inside of you. You allowed that foundation that you learned to grow. And when we come back, we're going to talk about watering that seed on the inside, because you got me going. You can't eat at everybody's table. Everybody's table is not good. Everybody's table don't have the plethora of things. Everybody's table don't have the plates out there with the right food on it, with the right, utensils beside it. Well, you got to be careful what fork you pick up, because the fork you pick up may not be the right one. When we come back, we will talk more about that. Today's show is sponsored by earthblendcoffee.global. You can use the link in the description box below to place your order. We'll be right back after the break.
Footprint Farms is a beautiful 68-acre vegetable and cattle farm located in Jackson, Mississippi, and is Mississippi's largest urban farm. The mission of Footprint Farms is to provide the community access to healthy food choices, introduce our youth to agriculture, and provide training and technical assistance to small farmers and ranchers. The farm is open to the public every Friday from 2:30 to 5:30 p.m. to purchase fresh produce or visit us at the Mississippi Farmers Market located near the fairgrounds in February. We accept all forms of payment, including EBT and SNAP benefits. Looking for a beautiful venue for your next wedding, family reunion, or dinner? Footprint Farms offers a 3,000 square foot facility on 5 beautiful acres, perfect for your next event. For more information, visit our website at footprintfarms.com, Facebook and Instagram at Footprint Farms, or call us at 601-910-5534. Footprint Farms, farm fresh, city sweet.
Advertise on WeBelieve.global, a brand new digital media platform. Share your brand with our audience on our many global live stream TV broadcasts and over the radio. For more info, visit WeBelieve.global or call 800-492-5186, option 1.
Hey, welcome back. As we were talking before, you cannot eat at everyone's table. What are we saying? You cannot have the words of everybody, because everybody's words does not have the vision in it that God has placed inside of you. God has a divine connector for every single person. We are all connected in some way, and the water that's inside of me is going to water the seed that's inside of you. Now, Miss Rogers, you made a great point. I'm sitting there wiggling in my seat, trying not to get up, because you were talking about not eating at everybody's table. The food that you were eating, which are called words, the words that you were eating was really, really doing something inside of you. And those words that you spoke into existence back in 1970 something, those words now are bearing forth fruit.
Yes.
Because someone spoke an encouraging word that watered the seed inside of you. You gripped that encouraging word and you said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pay it forward by speaking into existence the things that I want to do that somebody else can never stop believing. Let's talk about how those words really affected you. And then I want you to speak life to someone. I want you to really encourage them.
I came from a line of strong women, my grandmother and mother. I feed off of their words every single day by something I do, something I say. And when we talk about eating at the table, we can be drawn sometimes to the fine china, the name on the building, the fancy menu. And when you get to the table, you get inside the building is fancy, the table is whatever, everything is prepared right. But when you get that meal, it was horrible.
Ooh.
Because we got caught up in the wrong thing.
Come on.
But you go over here, that little hole in the wall, you know, the building don't look like much, but when you get that food, the food is hard to beat. And so we get it twisted by how it's presented to us. And sometimes we miss what that food is like. And so I feasted on that word and still feast on that word that got me to where I am today, that I would take what I heard as a child, take what I heard through people like you and people that I've met in my lifetime to push it forward.
You know, and once again, I'm trying to sit still because you were saying a mouthful. You're saying a mouthful. You took some, so you even gave us an illustration, okay? Some people eat at the nice fancy restaurant thinking that they're going to get a 5-course meal. Yet at this place over here that most people do not deem or see to be a 5-course, because everybody is going for the lure of the building, the facade of the building, the maze of the building. You know how we can travel through this maze and still not make it to the finish line, or still not make it out, still not make it to the destination. But some people go for that building, and they go for the fancy words, and they go for the fanciness, but those words have no soil. Those words have no stability. Those words have no substance. Yes. But yet you have this little place over here that's pumping and that's pushing and that's giving revelational impartation like never before. And this place over here is called the hidden secret. You know, it's like the diamond in the rough. You know, the diamond deep down at the bottom that's covered with all of the dirt. See, nobody wants to dig down deep to find the diamond. Nobody wants to go down and get down in the nitty-gritty with the diamond, because the diamond takes hard work. The diamond takes, you know, some bangs and some bruises and some scars and some peeling off layers to get to the diamond. But everybody want to go to what's fancy. Everybody want to go to the place that everybody is going to. But here's the thing. When you get something that's so solid, when you get some meat that's so good, you eat off of it for years, and it builds your faith. It stirs you up. And that was what happened to you. You have an inspiration on the inside of you. I want you to speak to the people today, because I feel that there's something on the inside of you that's stirring. Somebody needs to hear this. God is speaking to you, Miss Rogers. Speak to them.
You know, it doesn't matter that teenager, that child that's rebelling from washing the dishes, making the bed. Don't get stuck in that rebellion now. Pray over your child. Lay hands on that child. All up that child. You don't have to be out in the open, but then you can if you're the parent. Stop yielding your parenting to what your child knows much more about technology than you. You are the parent. Don't yield your rights to what the child knows knowledge-wise. Just because you still saying this, that, ain't, is, and that Harvard League, Ivy League language. Put prayer, put God on it. Watch God turn it around. It's in that. And it doesn't matter. And don't think prison is the worst thing. The worst thing that can happen to your child or your loved one is dying and not knowing Jesus.
Oh, come on.
That is the ultimate. You want your child to know Jesus. Give them a foundation of substance, something that they can run back to. Out of all of what I went through in my life, it was the word of God that my grandmother, my mother instilled in me, that took me through that hardship of prison and brought me back and turned me around. Don't give up, Mom. Don't give up, Dad, Uncle, Grandma, cousin. Don't give up, brother, sister. Watch God work in your behalf.
Hallelujah. Your words just brought me, oh, hallelujah. Your words just brought me to, and I'm trying to calm myself, because I feel everything that you just spoke wisdom-wise. That's wisdom that you just spoke. That's wisdom. And your word said this. This is Proverbs 16:24. Pleasant words are as honeycomb, sweet to the mind and healing to the body. Your words of wisdom. If people don't hear wisdom from someone that has understanding of what wisdom is, they'll never hear it. We have to be the vessel to speak words of encouragement. If there's not but one person, Miss Rogers, that understood what you just said, that one person is going to affect an entire generation. That one person is going to affect an entire generation and lead this nation to something great. Your words spoke this, and I'm going to read it again. Pleasant words are as honeycomb, sweet to the mind and healing to the body. One person has to be defined by their words. One person has to be sharpened by their words. One person has to be driven by their words.
Yes.
You are that person that's driving somebody else by your words of wisdom. And you speak these words to these women every day, to these men every day. You have some young ladies right now that you're encouraging and empowering. You have some young men right now that you're encouraging and empowering. And how are you transforming their lives for them to say, you know what? Stop looking at my past. Stop looking at the past and allowing that to define who you are.
Yes.
Look at where God has you now and believe that the evidence that you cannot see, but you hope for, is going to be much greater. How are you leading them now?
Oh, through reentry. Being there at the gate when they leave out. I'm very hands-on.
Yes.
When they come out of that gate, that embrace, that encouragement from a sister that's been there.
That encouragement.
Done that. That encouragement of walking alongside you. No better than you. I'm not walking in front of you. Been there. I'm walking alongside you. And when I see this pit hole that you're getting ready to fall in, or perhaps could fall in, it's just simply saying, it's a hole right there. Not snatching them. Not controlling them stepping there, but just simply saying, there's a hole right there to the left. And guiding them along the way. And just being an ear. Being a shoulder, being an arm, being a lap to some. Because big girls cry too.
Come on.
You know, big girls weep.
Come on.
And it's okay. Weeping is supposed to happen. And that's what we do. We come alongside them. It's like talking about the church and the restaurants that where you go. It's the boutiques. It's the little small boutiques. Every time you spend all the time in the mall, in all these major stores, you go to this little small boutique. It's not a lot of traffic. People don't show up. All the crowds are not there. But every time you walk in that little boutique, you always come out with exactly what you went in for, looking for, that you didn't even know was there, but you keep passing by it. And so that's what I consider us as. The little boutique that's just right there, helping them alongside every time they come out to get where the major chains can't take them.
Ooh. This is wisdom, and it's so sweet. It's so smooth because you're using parables and illustrations that's trying to get the people to understand that just because you're eating or just because you're going to a bigger boutique, you're going to a bigger company, a bigger place. Look at the small people. And you're saying to us today, don't despise the small beginnings.
Oh, yes.
Because the small beginnings, the small beginnings have an insert to becoming the large piece of the puzzle that God was trying to insert. Sometimes we have just an indention. Just an indention. That's because God is doing something that's far greater. And you mentioned this. It's the faith that you have in yourself to believe in somebody else.
Yes.
The faith that you have in yourself. Listen, that faith that you have in you to believe in someone else has made this whole thing of what you're doing huge.
Absolutely.
Just because you said, I'm going to give up one room in my small house. One room in my small house. And from that one room, established this foundation.
Yes. I never stopped believing in me. Never stopped believing in God first. Never stopped believing in me. And I never stopped believing in all the men and women I left behind. I lived with them. I saw. I believe in them. I believe in God. We are all better than the worst thing that we've ever done.
Now wait a minute.
We're all bigger than that.
You can't skip over that. We are all better than the worst thing that we've ever done. You got to elaborate.
What? Doesn't matter how much. Look at Jesus. All he had to go through. He was innocent. Then comes Legion that encounters Jesus, who went through nothing. Jesus encountered a man who went through everything. And when those two came together, Jesus, who had went through nothing of sin, but he took on sin, healed this man who had much sin, much wrong, many errors, tons of mistakes, no unforgiveness from others because they left him. But he cleansed him. Saul on the road to Damascus to do wrong, Jesus stopped him on the road to do wrong. And so that's all of us. And we're all better than the worst, whatever the worst thing that any of us have done. Jesus died for it. The worst that you can think of, whatever that is. Christ died for it. He took it on.
Yes.
And he took it on so that he knew we could come back to him and get it cleaned up.
Come on.
Get it taken off.
That's so right.
We had to go back to the same person that took it on. He was like, I already know I took that.
Right.
You got to come back to me.
Right. He just needed to know that we knew that he knew.
He took it. So he just wants us to be vessels that remember him.
Yes.
In all we go through.
Yes.
And give it to him. Lean on him. Depend on him. Trust him. When you can't see that, trust him. When you can't see, trust him. When the money for, trust him. When just trust him.
We got to come back after this break. Trust him.
Just trust him.
When everything is falling apart, trust him. When everything is going good, trust him. Even in the midst of all,
yes,
you have to trust him. You have to believe. Trust him is all that you need. It's a 5-letter word, and I assure you grace will come from that. Today's show is sponsored by earthblendcoffee.global. You can use the link in the description box below. Order now. We'll be right back after the break.
COVID's pioneering coronavirus protocol firm, S1-E COVID Solutions, is paving the way forward for a safer city government, delivering cutting-edge biosecurity and biosafety protocols which have been developed internationally by top virologists and scientists, using an all-natural cleaning solution that kills COVID-19 on contact like no other product on the international market. Let S1-E COVID Solutions provide innovative, rapid facilities testing and world-class, state-of-the-art biorisk safety protocols for all of your coronavirus needs. Advertise on WeBelieve.global, a brand new digital media platform. Share your brand with our audience on our many global live stream TV broadcasts and over the radio. For more info, visit WeBelieve.global or call 800-492-5186, option 1.
Hey, welcome back. Before we left off, I got to jump right into this because you were talking about trust him. Trust him. No matter what's going on in life, trust him. No matter how you're feeling right now, trust him. No matter how you're down and out, trust him. No matter how high you are, trust him. And I had to go here because I always like to back it up with the word. Yeah. We can never stop believing in the God that we serve because it is in that time of us feeling like we have nobody else to turn to. Yeah. Just like the lady that you were saying, she took a step back because she had nobody to depend on. She had nobody to trust.
Yes.
But the word says this, and I want to go here, and I'm going to read it out of the AMPC. I got to go here. This is Proverbs Chapter 3. See, you're saying these things that's making this pop up. It says this. Verse 5 says this. Lean on, trust in, and be confident in the Lord with all your heart and mind, and do not rely on your own insight or understanding. Verse 6 says, in all of your ways, recognize and acknowledge him, and he will direct and make straight your plain. He will make your pathway plain and straight. Trust him. When you don't feel like you don't know what to do, trust him. When you don't feel like everybody understands where you're going, trust him. It is even in that small time that you have with him, trust him. While yet sitting in your cell, you said, I trust you. Because one day when I get out of here, see, you had to get to a point of surrenderance to really fall down on your knees and say, God, when you, not if you, that's the difference right there. When you get me out of this, I promise you. Now here's the confession of your words. I promise you that I'm going to do this. See, your words gave you the confession that you were going to never stop believing. And then you were going to pay it forward by trusting him. See, trust is Trust. 5 letters. The number 5 represents grace. Grace and mercy is sufficient. It follows all the days of our life. And you said, I trust you. I trust you then. I trust you now. I trust you when my father left, and I trust that you was going to be a comforter and bring me another comfort to help me. I trust you when we didn't have anything in the family. I trust you now that we got everything in the family. I trust you when I didn't have no food. Now that I got a little food to eat, I trust you now. I trust you when I felt like, you know what was breaking loose. I trust you even when all the favors started falling. God, I trust you when I didn't have a place to, know what? I trust you even now that I have this place. Why? Because it is in my trust that you gave me grace. It is in my trust that you gave me belief. It is in my trust that you gave me faith. Because now faith is the substance of hope for, the evidence of things not seen. God did not give us the spirit of fear, but he gave us the spirit of power, love, and a sound mind. And self-discipline. Yes, self-discipline. Why? Because you trusted him. You trusted him.
Yes, Lord.
And you're doing that same thing now.
Yes, Lord.
Leaning not to your own understanding and says, God, I don't know where the rest is going to come from, but I do know that you have supplied all of my needs according to your riches and glory through Christ Jesus.
Yes.
Let's talk about how God is supplying you daily.
Look, I don't even know sometimes because I trust him.
Come on.
And when stuff happens, I have learned and yet learning just to lean and depend on him. When the refrigerator is empty, I don't worry. God, I need that cattle off the hill.
Come on now.
And in my refrigerator.
Come on now.
I need that cattle off the hill and in my cabinet.
Come on now.
And I literally live that way. That I don't worry about whatever's to come, because I've seen God do it through my grandmama. My grandmother, the neighborhood was trailer park.
Yes.
Everybody trailers. That kind of, my grandma, or wood houses, wood frames sitting off the. My grandmother was the first person in the community to build a brick home back in the 70s. And I watched her negotiate corn from her field to go get greens from somebody else's field, exchanging. And so I watched her do this. And so I learned to trust God because I watched her trust him. And then when I had to do it for myself, God, the God of my grandmama, I need you to do it for me.
Come on.
The God of my mother, I need you to do it for me.
Come on.
The God that I saw do it for my pastor I was sitting under, he did it for me.
Yes.
And so it wasn't because I had this trust pattern in my own life. I had watched God do it through some people that I knew, and I wanted him to do for me what I saw him do for them. This woman had almost 100 acres of land paid for back during the day when people wasn't even making money. They weren't even making $20 a month. And paid the taxes on it. So I watched women like that.
Yes.
That I grew up with, that trusted God, that never stopped believing.
Come on.
And because they never stopped believing in the God they serve, I asked God to give me some of that.
Yes.
That I never stopped believing and trusting this God that came through for them. And so that's I had witnesses again.
Ooh.
And it's something about the witnesses that I had in my life. I lean and depend on those witnesses and their words, just like I lean and depend, but trust in the word that I read of the Almighty God.
Yes. Yes, so when people say to you, how is it that you trust? You say, because of the illustration that I have.
The illustrations.
How is it that you trust? Because of the knowledge that I have. How is it that you trust? Because I've followed.
Yes.
So when you follow in the footsteps of what is right,
You have to.
you understand the truth. And the truth sets our minds free, sets us up for a great breakthrough, sets us up for a great reward. Why? Because the same God that lived in your grandmother, the same God that lived in your mother, the same God that lives in Paul, the same God that lived in Silas, the same God that lives is the same God that lives in you, in me. And we said, you know what? We're just going to trust it.
Yes.
We're going to trust it. And so how do I pay it forward? I'm going to pay it forward by going back to the same place that held me. That held me.
Yes.
And now I'm going to make sure that you understand, young lady, that you don't have to be held by this place. So now what do I need you to do? I need you to transform your mind, not be conformed. You see where I'm going with this? I need you to transform your mind, not be conformed. Because if your mind is still conformed, now you stay confined. But I need you to be transformed so that I can help you renew, so that you can be revived, so that you can be restored, so that you can have restoration. And that's what you're doing. You're reviving, you're restoring, you're giving restoration. Why? Because you trust in the same word that was spoken to your grandmother. You trust in the same word that was spoken to your mother. You trust in the same God that illustrated to you how Paul and Silas was able to get out. You didn't sit yet in that cell and waddle in your pity. You didn't have a pity party. But what you did was you said, I'm going to go back to my foundation. I'm going to go back to my roots because my root system is strong. My root system is bringing me forth. My root system is bringing me out. Your root system has given you the strength and the stability to help somebody right now. You have to go back to the roots.
The root system. I like that. Elisha had Elijah. Elisha had Elijah. Joshua and Caleb had Moses. So we don't want to sit under nobody. We know everything. We can't take instructions. And it's the instructors that we learn from. If you knew it all, why need an instructor? We all need instructing. But when you get so big, you don't need no instructor. That's why you keep falling into stuff, doing stuff, because you were without a guide. You got to have a guide. These GPS in this phone for a reason.
Come on now.
If you knew where you were going,
come on,
you know the direction to get you there.
Come on.
And when the direction blocked from where you headed, you know 220 will take you straight there.
Come on.
But if 220 is blocked, how you going to get that in?
Reroute.
You got to be rerouted. But we don't want a guide to instruct us so that when we get off track and we need to detour, what's the best way to go there? So I never stop believing in my instructors. I depend on them to this day.
Yes.
My pastor I grew up with, I feast off of words that he taught yesteryear, even today.
Yes.
Because I listen to the instruction. And when you can't find a guide, oh no, I pull them up. I talk to them alongside that word. And God will lead and direct me because I depend on Him. I can't stop believing.
Yes.
Never will stop believing.
Yes.
Never will.
Yes.
And I teach it to the women that we deal with every day. Never stop believing. Never stop believing. Stop looking at those sinners reports. Trust. If you're going to trust God, trust God.
Yes.
One of the ladies sitting out in the car waiting on me now did 34 calendar years. Went from death row to freedom.
Wow.
Because she didn't stop believing.
Yes.
I can't stop believing. The people I serve need belief. They need faith. They need hope. And so that's what we do. We tell them to keep hope alive. So
she went from 34 calendar help me if I get this wrong.
34 calendar years.
34 calendar years to being on death row. Or
from death row to living in general population,
Yes.
to she's free today.
Yes.
But
Because,
let me make that correct.
Yes.
33 years and 6 months.
okay.
33 years and 6 months.
And she's free today.
Free
because
today.
she never stopped believing.
She never stopped believing.
Talking about God giving another chance.
Another chance. And
Just-
she knows Jesus.
Just as he did
Yes.
for Saul that was turned into Paul.
Yes.
Saul was taking Christians out. He was demolishing Christians. Saul was demolishing Christians because he believed in that. And God says, I'm going to put you on a road called straight. I got to put you on this road called straight because it's something that I have on the inside of you that I need you to do in this world with me. And this lady served her time. And so now God is putting her on the road called straight. Sometimes we have to get knocked off in order to find our path.
Oh, yes.
Sometimes we have to get straightened up
Yes.
in order to find our path.
Absolutely.
And God gave her another chance. Just like as we're talking about witnesses and illustrations. This is an illustration that God will give you another chance.
Yes, he will.
God will give you another chance.
Yes, he will.
Only thing you have to do is believe. As Miss Rogers said, don't stop trusting. Don't stop trusting in what you know to be true. If you don't have anything else to lean on the illustrations that was set before you. Lean and follow the footsteps of somebody that has already walked through that path. Follow the footsteps because they're there for a reason. They're called divine connections. Those divine connections are giving you an opportunity to see that, guess what? Your life can be changed too. Why? Because that person never stopped believing. The same break that happened for them will be the same break that happens for you because there's a seed on the inside of you that God is trying to get you to understand.
Yes.
Never stop believing. The same God
Yes.
that worked in your grandmother.
Yes.
This is reminding me of Timothy. The same God that worked in your grandmother. The same God that worked in your mother. Timothy, do you know your grandmother Lois? The same God. She was praying for you. Yes, there were people praying
Yes.
the right prayer. I mean Praying, not Preying. There are people that are praying
Yes.
that God gives another chance. That God brings and stirs the gift because there's a gift inside of everybody that the world needs or else we wouldn't be here. It's the gift. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the gift.
Yes.
You are watching today's show, sponsored by Coffee.Global. You can use the link in the description box to place your order. We'll be right back after the break.
Advertise on WeBelieve.Global, a brand new digital media platform. Share your brand with our audience on our many global live stream TV broadcasts and over the radio. For more info, visit WeBelieve.Global or call 800-492-5186, option 1. Hey,
welcome back to Never Stop Believing. I am your host, Juanita Ward, sitting with my co-host, Miss Pauline Rogers. This has been an awesome show thus far. And before we went off for break, we talked about the gift. I want you to enlighten us a little bit on what you're doing as a gift to your young ladies, to your gentlemen that you're working with? What are you doing to be that gift?
We provide reentry housing for those coming out of prison, primarily women. We've only housed like 4 men since we've been doing this work, other than when we had a hurricane during the pandemic, where there were 19 people we had to house. But we provide that housing for them, and they can stay indefinitely. They do not, they just have to have a sponsor. Even if they do not have a sponsor and we have the space, we take them in. And they stay. The longest lady that's ever stayed was 3 years. Nobody leaves us and go back into homelessness or wondering who's going to support me, who's going to help me. They leave when they feel like they're ready to tackle the world, tackle on the community, and live independently. And so when they leave us, they leave in going into their own apartment, they going in with a family member, or they going into another housing facility that's somewhere else. Other than that, nobody leaves homeless or wondering which way to go. And we do children. We do a camp and services to children with the incarcerated parent. And we know where those children are in every 82 counties because we go into prison and we get that data from the incarcerated person. So we do services throughout the year. You know, if anything comes up like COVID, we do COVID testing on people that come to the property, on the residents that are there. And we do life skill training, workforce development, job skill readiness, that type, resume, help them to get their resume done. And we have a lady that works with them if they need a GED and want to get their GED, that they can do that when they come out. So we just do anything that concerns them, concerns us.
So you're talking about being a servant. You are truly a servant at heart. And when we hear the word servant heart, we're definitely hearing Pauline RODGERS. Because you're a servant. And you do this with your husband, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
We do, my husband and tons of other volunteers. And we've been doing this over 36 years now. And we ain't tired yet.
Yes. And we need more people like you all to be servants, to be leaders. Because what you're doing is you're instilling into them how to be a servant and how to be a leader. And as we stated earlier, transforming the mind is so key. And you're transforming the mind to teach them that the gift that's inside of them is great. You do have another chance. You do have an opportunity to get it right. You do have an opportunity to live the rest of your life the way that it should be lived. You do. You may have hit a little bump. And that little bump probably stopped you a little bit and allowed you to get back on path. But that bump did not keep you down. That bump did not hinder you. That bump did not knock you 20 years back. That bump actually pushed you forward. Talk a little bit about that.
Oh, the bump puts you forward, for sure. You know, it's like the women we do, you know, we don't get them stuck in the vision of where we want them. We try to walk alongside them with where you're headed. What's the bump in the road that's keeping you from getting to that next place where you want to get to? Even if it's writing. You know, reading is one of the things that we require they do. And I'm not talking about picking up a book. Just reading. Some of them is a book. We teach them memorization. Every time somebody, if they were to come in contact with you, they would have to remember something unique about you that you said that they can recall. It's like teaching them about, you know, this is Black History Month. Tell me something about Thurgood Marshall. Well, I teach them, you don't have to know everything about him, but one significant something he said or somebody else. And I will always give them something simple like, Thurgood Marshall said, I did what I could with what I had. You didn't read a book to say that, but you sound smart when you're sitting in other people that you can quote something that somebody said, or Juanita Ward says, never stop believing. That will always be a tribute to you. You teach them something like that that gets them an interested in moving those barriers that you think are barriers in the road because you don't read every day. Learn a quote. Learn something somebody else said every day that keeps you moving forward and progressing forward so that you don't keep running to these bumps on the road. And you take it and you turn around and you utilize it on your children. Show your children how smart you've become. Not because you read a whole book, but you remember Juanita Ward said, never stop believing. And that says enough. That says a lot right there. Never stop believing. Don't stop believing in me.
Yes.
Don't stop believing in
Yes.
yourself. Don't stop believing in your
Yes.
Don't stop believing. Don't stop. The key is never stop.
That's it.
Whatever it is you're believing for. Okay, 4 years have passed. You want to be a lawyer. Don't stop.
Come on.
It's 4 more coming.
Come on.
What you going to do with year number 5? Don't stop believing. And so they can take that one thing that you say on into something else now that they say. Because they remember what you said. And so that's one of the things that we teach them, among many, how to eliminate bumps in the road. Go around the bumps. Get around it. Jump over it. Go under.
Yes.
Fill it up. Smooth it out.
Yes.
Whatever it takes to move that bump, move it.
Yes.
Keep going.
You speak so eloquent. And how you're speaking is so smooth. Because anybody can grasp what you're saying. Don't stop believing, whatever bump may be there. Keep going. And you talked about not only helping the mother or the father, you talked about helping the child. Because the child is looking at that parent and saying, yeah, my mom was incarcerated. Yeah, my dad was incarcerated. But here's the thing. When that child sees that or knows that, those things that that child has experienced through that is training that child throughout the course of your absence. So now when you come out of it, how do you learn to teach your child from where they are now? And the words that you are speaking, the wisdom that you are teaching, the God that you are preaching is the same words that's going to affect that little child. And that little child is going to say, I saw this. You cannot blur out the beginning. I remember the beginning was this. But this is how I saw my parent come out of it. This is what I saw my parent go through to get out of it. We all have a story. We all have been at a point in our life where we saw something before we actually knew what it was and how to get out. We all have a moment in life. And that moment in life teaches us so much about the future. The future is shaped by what we have been through. The future has already been predestined for us. But here's the thing. Are you learning something in your now? Or are you trying to look forward to the future, not even understanding the lessons that are going on now, not even being taught by what's happening now? Our now faith is so important because now faith pushes us into never stop believing.
Yes.
And before we get off the show, I gotta have you to speak because somebody needs now.
Now is all we have. Later may come, but you may not be in the later. So you have to deal with the now. And parents, children, friends, and foes, you have to learn how to talk about bad things in a beautiful way. How do you talk about bad things in a beautiful way? You don't come in anger first, but an all listening ear. Because all of us have to talk about ugly things in a unique way. And you just learn how to get there. I deal with parents, we deal with family reunification. And a part of that is getting to the place where you can talk and hear the other person. And that's what we deal with in the now. In the now is, you just have to get there. Now. Not later. You can't deal with the past. Let it go. Find a way to let it go. So that you can develop in the now. And trust God in it. Give it to Him. He's a big guy. Lean on Him. Go limp on Him. He can handle the weight of it and the weight of you. Trust Him.
Trust Him. Trust Him in the now.
Trust Him in the now.
Because if we can forgive ourselves for then, the more blessings that we will have for now and furthermore.
Yes.
There's so much exceeding that's going on. There's so much of abundance that's going on.
Yes.
There's so much of opportunity that's going on. And you have been a great pillar to push people forward. Your words have been seasoned with salt. Your words have been tasteful. And I know for a fact that somebody has been blessed, because it is not about where you were. It's about where you're going.
Yes.
Good thing we don't have eyes in the back of our head, because I don't know if I can see forward and look back at the same time. Because if we only had eyes in the back of our head, the only place we'll be going is backwards, yet trying to go forward. The good thing is God placed them in front of us, so that we can look for the future. We've heard it like this: look to the hills with cometh our help, because our help comes from God.
Oh, yes.
So when we're looking forward, we keep our eyes on the belief. We keep our eyes on faith. We keep our eyes on Jesus, knowing that he is the author. He is the beginning and the end. And most importantly, he has a plan. A plan for the future. A plan of good and not of evil.
Yes.
A plan to give you hope for your future. You may not know what tomorrow is going to bring. You may not know what the rest of the year may bring. But guess what? You have faith right now to believe that right now is the best place that you need to be.
Yes.
Tomorrow is going to take care of itself. Yesterday is gone. Today is sufficient enough. You may have been through a storm before, but guess what? Exceedingly and abundantly got you out, because the supplier has always been there to connect you. I am so excited that you have joined us again for Never Stop Believing. And I know that you have gained something great from this. Thank you so much, Ms. Rogers, for coming on the show. This has been a blessing, and I am so grateful from the bottom of my heart. You are a true pillar of being a servant of I can, I will succeed, and never stop believing.
Amen.
We have to speak words over our life that's going to be powerful, that's going to cause us to catapult into the future. God is asking you to do that. Will you do that today? Will you speak life? Because speaking life brings about a great restoration. Your tree is fruitful. You've been watching Never Stop Believing. Today's show is sponsored by earthblendcoffee.global. You can use the link in the description box below. Until next time, I am Juanita Ward, and you're watching Never Stop Believing. This is Jay Ward, the Encourager. Never stop believing. I'm telling you, you have to believe it. It's inside of you. It's what you feel. It's what you think. It's what you do. If you can believe it, you can achieve it. Just keep going. Press your way through. Can you believe in what you can't see? There's so much more that's going on inside of you. And the seed that's inside of you, you have to water it. Don't you believe it? If you can pray, if you can believe, I assure you, you'll never stop believing.
Do you have something to say? Do you want your voice heard? Join the WeBelieve.global lineup. Be the star of your own show. For more info, call 800-492-5186, option number 1, or visit online at